Hello friends, so I was talking about to-do lists and testing out what's now as an alternative. And if you have been playing with this and testing it out, you may find to start with that there's just a big blank. And that's because the ego's learning something new. And to-do lists are about the ego. Now, I am not making to-do lists wrong, and if you love your to-do list, keep it. All I want to do is share with you another perspective so that if to-do lists are not something that inspire you and uplift you and you love, it's like there's another possibility. And it's the ego that needs to remember. The inner being always knows in the moment. So the idea of remembering to the inner being makes no sense. Remembering is of the ego. The idea of a plan makes no sense to the inner being. It just chooses in the moment. And the thing about when we begin to live our life and create our life from the inner being is it's got a perspective that is so much wider and so much more than the ego can ever have. It's a silly analogy, but just, think about a 3-year-old in a crowd of adults. All the 3-year-old can see is knees and thighs and bums, whereas the adult can see more, so it has a different perspective, and it's the same with the inner being. And so my only reason for sharing this is because the idea of what's now has brought more joy back into my world. It's brought so much more ease. I'm so much more relaxed. The ego, the productive ego, or the ego that wants to be productive, because an ego's never productive, that's like an oxymoron. But the ego that wants to be productive is like, go, 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 go. And I know that when I was working in leadership in organizations, I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to pause. I didn't know how to acknowledge what had been created. I didn't know how to rest. And really what that created for me was exhaustion. But I would only ever get to know it where one of two things would happen. I would begin to hate everybody. I really liked everybody that I worked with. Or I would just want to cry. So maybe for you, you get short and snappy, or maybe you think by working longer hours, you'll get on top of it. But weirdly, there's something about slowing down and being here now. Now is the space of possibility. Now is the space of infinite choice. And I don't mean at the level of effects, I mean in terms of like choosing the energy to be. When I had to-do lists, I was tight. I was always trying to get somewhere. I never felt like there was enough time. I didn't allow myself to stop. Everything just became like this job, next, next, next. That's not really, in my opinion, the best way for me to create. That's not going to be the things that create the magic and the joy. And so this idea of, from the inner being, of what now? It makes me want to giggle. There's so much space in it. What now? And what I notice is I get inspired and I have ideas and I take action that wasn't on my to-do list. I have conversations with people that weren't on my to-do list but are very creative and open up possibilities that I hadn't seen. And yes, the accounts get done. And yes, I show up at times where I've promised to speak to people. So it's not like I'm really Pollyanna about it, although personally I have no point of view about Pollyanna. But it's just a much more wonderful and easy and effortless way to live. And so what magic could show up for you if you could allow yourself to test out just for a little bit and play with what now? Have fun playing.